In the last section, we discussed Bernoulli's principle and its proof. And we got the equation P plus rho GH plus half rho V square is a constant, right? Now, this Bernoulli's principle is a fundamental principle of fluid dynamics based on the law of conservation of energy. Okay, so in Bernoulli's equation, P plus rho GH plus half rho V square is a constant. This term, that is the P plus rho GH, can be called as the static pressure. P plus rho GH can be called as the static pressure, which means the fluid pressure at when the fluid is at rest, and the term half rho V square, which includes velocity, right? This half rho V square is called the dynamic pressure. What does it mean when the fluid is flowing with the velocity V? So Bernoulli's equation can be written as the static pressure plus dynamic pressure is a constant. Okay. Now suppose if the liquid is flowing through a horizontal tube. If the liquid is moving like this, it is flowing through a horizontal tube. Clear? Then here h remains a constant. If it is not at a height h from the reference level, the height will remain a constant, isn't it? No height is not mentioned there. In such a case, in the above equation, this term will turn to 0 because h equal to 0. Right. Now, the remaining terms are P and half rho V square. So, the equation will change like P plus half rho V square. This is the condition where we are neglecting the effective height. Means when the pipe is in the horizontal level. Okay. Now, which is a constant. And what does this equation mean? In this equation, it shows that if V increases, then P should decrease, isn't it? And if P increases, V should decrease. Thus, for a streamlined flow of an ideal liquid flowing horizontally, the pressure decreases where velocity increases and vice versa. Okay, and the pressure decreases, velocity increases. Then only this equation will remain as a constant because it should obey Bernoulli's principle. And how do we get this equation? Is by neglecting this term. That means that's a condition or case where we are taking the pipe in the horizontal level. The flow is in the horizontal level only. It is not having a height h from the reference line. Okay, when we are considering vertical direction, we have to take the height also from the ground level, but in such a case we are not mentioning the height, so this term will turn to 0 and P plus half rho V square is a constant. And to maintain this balance or to maintain it as a constant, either when P increases V should decrease, or when V increase P should decrease. Okay, so based on this principle we are explaining the applications of Bernoulli's principle. Okay, so actually this is an important aspect of Bernoulli's principle which finds many applications. So now we are moving to the applications of Bernoulli's principle. Okay. So the first application of Bernoulli's principle is atomizer or sprayer. Let us check how an atomizer works on the basis of Bernoulli's principle. Okay, you all are familiar with sprayer or atomizer, and you know the equation P plus half rho V square is a constant. So keep this in mind. And I told that when P increases, when pressure increases, velocity decreases. Or when velocity increases, pressure decreases. So this aspect is explained in this atomizer also. So first we will move to the diagram. Okay, the working of an atomizer which is used to spray liquids is based on Bernoulli's principle. So this is the diagram. And the essential parts of an atomizer, here there is a rubber balloon which can be pressed. Then there is a horizontal tube here. This horizontal tube has an opening towards the vertical tube, and this tube is directed towards a container in which the liquid is placed. Okay, now this tube, this vertical tube is named as A and the horizontal tube is named as B. Clear? Now this container or this liquid has an atmospheric pressure now which is named as P1. So how does this atomizer work with respect to Bernoulli's principle? As you press the rubber balloon, the air is present here, right? The air rushes out of the horizontal tube, and when the air rushes very fastly, it is moving with a high velocity, the pressure decreases here. The pressure decreases, and the pressure here now is less than the atmospheric pressure P1. So if here the pressure is less, what will happen? The liquid rises through this tube to the horizontal tube, and when it collides with the high speed air in tube B, it breaks into fine spray, and thus it can be used as a sprayer. Understand? So this container has an atmospheric pressure P1. Now here air is there. When you press the balloon, air rushes out with a high velocity. Okay, as the air is rushing with a high velocity, here the pressure will be less because pressure and velocity are inversely proportional according to Bernoulli's principle. Now here the pressure changes, and here again the atmospheric pressure changes. So there is a difference in pressure, isn't it? So what will happen if there is an increase in pressure? That means this P2 is always P2 is less than the atmospheric pressure P1. That means here there is a pressure, and due to that the liquid rises through the vertical tube, and when it reaches here, the fast moving air collide with the liquid, and finally it will break into fine spray. Understand? So this is the working of an atomizer or sprayer. Clear? Now the second application can be explained in terms of blood flow and heart attack. You know that in persons suffering with advanced heart conditions, the artery gets constricted due to the accumulation of deposits like plaque on its inner walls. In order to drive the blood through this constriction, a greater demand is placed on the activity of the heart. So what will happen? The speed of blood flow increases in this region, and if the speed of blood flow increases, you know the pressure, that is the inside pressure, will drops according to Bernoulli's principle. So when the speed of blood flow increases in such a constricted region, the inside pressure drops or decreases, and the artery may collapse due to the external pressure. The heart exerts further pressure to open this artery and forces the blood through. As the blood rushes through the opening, the internal pressure once again decreases, leading to a repeat collapse. This phenomenon is called vascular flutter, which can be heard with the help of a stethoscope. This may result in a heart attack. Okay, that is, in persons suffering with advanced heart conditions, you know there will be huge deposits in the inner walls like plaque, we call it as plaque. So because of this accumulation of plaque, the artery will get constricted. Understand? So in order to drive the blood through this constriction. It is a huge task. So the speed of blood flow increases in this region. As the speed of blood flow increases, the inside pressure will decrease and the artery may collapse due to the external pressure. The heart exerts further pressure to open this artery and forces the blood through it. As the blood rushes through the opening, the internal pressure once again decreases and again leading to a repeated collapse. This phenomenon is known as vascular flutter, which can be heard with the help of a stethoscope, and also this will result in heart attack. So again, Bernoulli's principle application you can explain in this phenomenon also, because as the speed of blood flow increases, the pressure inside the walls decreases. Clear? So that's all about heart attack. Now we are moving to the third application. So next is blowing off the roofs during windstorm. That means during certain windstorm or cyclone, the roofs of some houses are blown off without damaging the other parts of the house. Okay, this roof part will get blown off when huge windstorm or cyclone happens. So this is in accordance, this can be explained in accordance with Bernoulli's principle. How does this happen? As when the high wind blowing over the roof, that means the wind is having a higher velocity. As a result, the region around here will be having a low pressure, isn't it? High velocity, low pressure. Clear? Now inside there is an atmospheric pressure, we call it as P1, and when there is a change in pressure outside, there will be a difference in pressure, isn't it? Here the pressure is more and here the pressure is low. As there is a huge pressure inside when compared to this region, there will be a thrust or an upward thrust will be there. Okay, due to this upward thrust acting like this, the roof will be lifted up. And once the roof is lifted up, it is blown off with the wind. Understand? So this is the application in the case of blowing off the roofs during windstorm. Once again I will tell, during certain windstorm or cyclone, the roofs of some houses are blown off without damaging the outer parts of the house. The high wind blowing over the roof creates a low pressure region in accordance with Bernoulli's principle. So at that condition, the pressure P1, which is below the roof, is equal to atmospheric pressure and is larger than P2. So here there is a pressure difference. This P1 will be greater than P2, and here because of huge pressure it will exert an upward thrust towards the roof. So the roof will get lifted up, and once the roof is lifted up, it is blown off with the wind. Clear? So next is curved path of a spinning ball. Curved path of a spinning ball. You can also call it as Magnus effect. It's an important question. Magnus effect. Okay. Now here, you know, when a ball, all of you are playing cricket and all, you know the spinning ball, how does it move, everything you know. And when a ball is thrown horizontally with a large velocity, suppose you consider you are throwing a ball with large velocity and at the same time you are giving a twisting motion to cause a spin. Understand? Some of you are very expert in throwing spinning ball, right? So when a ball is thrown horizontally with a large velocity and at the same time you are giving a twisting motion to cause a spin, it deviates from the usual parabolic path of spin-free motion. Normally when you throw a ball without spin, it will move in a parabolic path, that you know. Parabolic path you know, right? But when you are using the spin also in its motion, there will be a change in the parabolic path. There will be a curve, okay, curved path. It will follow a curved path. So that is because of what? That you can explain with the help of Bernoulli's principle. Understand? So first of all, when a ball spins about an axis perpendicular to its horizontal motion, it carries itself an layer due to viscous drag. That means if there is a ball Okay, suppose this is your ball and the air around this ball will form a layer around it because of the viscous drag. Viscosity we will study, at that time you will understand. It's like a friction. Okay, so fluid friction, we call it as fluid friction. That means when an object moves in a fluid, the air around will exert a force on it. Okay, it will try to make it in its opposite direction, movement in the opposite direction, that is called friction, and will form the air around that particular object will form a layer around it. Like that, if there is a ball and this ball you are suppose the ball is spinning about an axis perpendicular to the horizontal motion, it carries itself an air around it and it is in the form of concentric circles. Understand? Now, if the ball is moving forward with a velocity v, what will happen? Suppose the ball is moving with a velocity v forward, in the forward direction. If it is moving with a velocity v, the air ahead of the ball rushes backward with velocity v to fill the space. Okay, when an object moves from its original position, there will be a space left empty there, right? So what will happen? The air above or air ahead of this particular ball will move in the backward direction. They rushes to the backward direction in order to fill the empty space here. So how can you draw the diagram? Yes, this will be like this. The movement will be in the backward direction. Why? Because when the ball starts to move with a velocity v in the forward direction, the air around it will move in the backward direction in order to fill the empty space there. Okay, so this will be the, actually this is called the streamlines, and this will be in this shape. The concentric circles changed to this shape, and this can be considered as the streamlines. Okay, streamlines around the ball. Clear? Now the layer above the ball moves in a direction opposite to that of the spinning ball. So what will happen? Here the velocity will decrease, isn't it? There is a decrease in the velocity, and as a result the pressure increases upward. The air above the ball will move in the backward direction with a low velocity, and as a result the pressure will increase in the upward portion. Now what about the layer below? The layer below the ball moves in the direction of the spin. And the resultant velocity increases and hence pressure decreases. So I can rearrange the diagram like this. This is the spinning ball. Okay, and the air above will be like this. And the air below will be like this. During its spin, what will happen? The air above the ball will move in backward direction, so that the velocity will be decreasing and the pressure will be increasing. But the air below the ball will move in the direction of the spin itself. Suppose the spin is like this, it should also move like that, right? So what will happen? The velocity here increases and the pressure decreases. So there is a change in pressure. Here the pressure is small, here the pressure is what? Large enough. So there will be a force from the upper side, so that it will follow a curved path. Understand? So this is actually because of the difference in pressure which causes the spinning ball to take a curved path, and it is always towards the greater pressure side, convex towards the greater pressure side, and this effect is known as Magnus effect. Clear? So this is the curved path of a spinning ball, or you can call it as Magnus effect. This can be explained with the help of Bernoulli's principle. Actually, what is happening here, when a ball spins about and perpendicular, an axis perpendicular to its horizontal motion, it carries itself an air around it. Okay, that is because of the viscous drag that you will study later. Now, these are the streamlines around it. You know that fluid flow. Streamlines around it will be in the form of concentric circles. Understand? Now, when the ball moves forward with a velocity v, the air ahead of the ball rushes backward with velocity v to fill the space left empty by the ball. Thus, the streamlines in air due to this motion of the ball will be like this. It is shown in this figure. Okay. The layer above the ball moves in a direction opposite to that of the spinning ball. So what will happen? Here the resultant velocity will decrease. And as a result, the pressure will increase in accordance with Bernoulli's principle. And the layer below the ball moves in the direction of spin. The resultant velocity increases and hence pressure decreases. Due to the difference in the pressure on two sides of the ball curves downwards in the direction of the spin. That is why there is a curved path for a spinning ball. In the normal case, it will follow a parabolic path, but in the case of a spinning ball, it follows a curved path because there is a change in pressure in the upper and lower layers of the ball. Upper side, there will be a higher pressure, and lower side, there will be a lower pressure. Understand? Because the velocity is high, the velocity will be in the direction of the spin itself, but in the upward region, the velocity will be opposite. The direction of velocity is opposite to the direction of the spin. Why? Because as it will move back in the backward direction in order to fill this empty space as the ball is moving forward. So here there will be a flow along with the ball. So there is a change in pressure, and because of the pressure, it will follow a curved path. Because here the pressure is more and here it is less. So what will happen is there is an downward force acting on the ball so that the ball follows a curved path, and this effect is known as Magnus effect. Clear? So next application is lift of an aircraft wing. You all have heard this word aerofoil. Aerofoil means lift of an aircraft wing. And aerofoil, what is the shape? The shape of an aeroplane, right? So aerofoil is a name actually given to a solid object shaped to provide an upward vertical force as it moves horizontally in air or through air. Okay, so first here you have to understand the word aerofoil. And what about the shape of aerofoil? It will be like this. Okay, so this is the shape of an aerofoil. So the wing of the aerofoil is so designed that its upper surface is more curved. Upper surface is more curved than the lower surface, and the front edge is broader than the rear edge. That is the design given to an aerofoil. Maybe you have studied in your smaller classes about the streamlined shape, isn't it? The fishes in water, then aeroplanes, and such vehicles which are given a particular shape in order to move through air or move through liquid. Okay, why? Yes, because of if it want to move in a fluid without any drag, it should have a particular shape, and that shape is like this. That is, the upper surface is more curved than the lower surface, and the front edge is broader than the rear edge. As the aircraft moves, what will happen? The air above that is in the upper surface, the air moves faster. So here it will be high speed. In the upper surface, the air will be in high speed. Like this, you can draw the streamlines. Okay. Than on the bottom. Now here, if you are considering the pressure will be, sorry, the speed will be low when you compare with the upper surface because of its shape. Now according to Bernoulli's principle, what about the pressure? If it is high speed above, the pressure will be low in the upper surface, isn't it? And compared to the lower surface, the pressure will be high, isn't it? Because of the low speed. So there is a change in pressure. Here the pressure is low and here the pressure is high. In the lower portion, if the pressure is high, what will happen is this helps to lift it, isn't it? We are discussing about the lift of an aircraft. How an aircraft is getting lifted from the horizontal level to a particular speed. Why? Because this is the condition. Understand? When it starts to move, as the aircraft moves, the air moves faster here because of its shape like this over the upper surface of the wing than on the bottom. And according to Bernoulli's principle, the air pressure above the upper surface decreases below the pressure, below this atmospheric pressure, and that on the lower surface increases than the atmospheric pressure. Understand? If the pressure here increases, this will lift it up. Okay, this will help to lift. The difference in the pressure provides an upward lift, and that lift is known as dynamic lift. That lift is called dynamic lift. Understand? So this is all about the lift of an aircraft wing. In all these cases, we are using the same principle, that is when pressure increases, velocity decreases, or vice versa. Okay, now we are moving to another device. We call it as venturimeter. Venturimeter. Now what is this venturimeter? Venturimeter is a device which is used to measure the rate of flow of a liquid through a pipe. It is a device used to measure the rate of flow of liquid through a pipe. It is also an application of Bernoulli's principle. It can also be called as flow meter or venturi tube. Okay, so venturimeter also works under the principle of Bernoulli's principle only. Now here it consists of a horizontal tube like this. Okay, and having a wider opening of cross section. Here the wider opening of cross section, you can consider this part as area A1, and there is a smaller cross sectional area here which we call it as A2. Okay. Now these two regions of the horizontal tube are connected to a manometer here. There will be a connection here, a U-shaped manometer. You know, manometer is used to find the pressure, right? So from here there is a connection like this. It is a U-shaped manometer connected like this. And this manometer contains a liquid of density rho m. Understand? This is the construction of a venturimeter. It consists of a horizontal tube. Now this is having an area of cross section A1, and there is a narrow tube in between which has a area A2. These two regions are connected with the help of a manometer which contains a liquid of density rho m. Okay, now how does this work? Here, this, since it is having an area A1, it has a velocity, let it be v1, and here it is having a velocity v2. Okay, and also there will be change in pressure at these regions. So here the pressure is P1 and here the pressure is taken as P2. And I told an equation of continuity, we call it as A1 V1, which is equal to A2 V2, which means that in smaller area of cross section the velocity will be more and vice versa. So in this equation I can rearrange this equation and I can write it as A1 by A2 is equal to V2 by V1. Right? And if the liquid has a density rho and is flowing horizontally, then from Bernoulli's expression we have P1 plus half rho V1 square, horizontal tube, that's why rho GH is omitted here, which is equal to P2 plus half rho V2 square, isn't it? Now the change in pressure is P1 minus P2. P1 minus P2, which is equal to half rho into V2 square minus V1 square. Or you can rearrange this half rho into V2 square by V1 square minus 1. Okay, I took V1 square as common, so V2 square by V1 square minus 1. Clear? Now this can be written as half into rho V1 square into V2 square by V1 square is what? Because here V2 by V1 is A1 by A2. So V2 square by V1 square is A1 square by A2 square. So I can write A1 square by A2 square minus 1. Okay. Now I can write half into rho V1 square into A1 square minus A2 square by A2 square. Clear? Half into rho V1 square into A1 square minus A2 square by A2 square. Okay. Now you have studied the, if H is the height difference in two arms of a tube, then the pressure difference can be taken as P1 minus P2 is equal to H rho G, isn't it? Here we have a U-shaped manometer, and since there is a difference in the height of the liquid level, here it is height here and here it is height here, so there is a difference in height called H. So the pressure difference can be written as H into rho into G, and here the liquid has a density rho m, so I can write H rho mg. Understand? Now this pressure difference, now here you got one expression for P1 minus P2 and here again H rho G. You can equate these two. So this will be H rho mg is equal to half into rho V1 squared A1 squared minus A2 squared by A2 squared. Okay. Now from this expression you can find the velocity V1, right? V1, if you are finding, you will get root of, this will go there, that is 2H rho m G divided by rho into, this will go there, so A2 square by A1 square minus A2 square. This is V1 square. If I want to find V1, I have to take the root. Clear? Now you got the velocity. And if you want to find the volume of liquid flowing out per second, how will you find? As it is volume is given by A1 V1. A1 V1, and you can write A1 into the final value of V1 here. So that is root of 2H rho m G divided by rho into A2 square by A1 square minus A2 square. Understood? So in this way you can find the volume of liquid flowing through the tube. For this Venturi meter is used. Understood? So this is also a device. This is a device used to measure the rate of flow of liquid, and it's also an application of Bernoulli's principle. Understood? You can use the Bernoulli's expression here and finally you can find the volume of liquid flowing out through the tube per second. I hope today's class is clear for you, because you have to read it properly. This is very important. The applications of Bernoulli's principle, then statement, then proof, everything is important. So go through it and study well. Okay. So thank you and have a nice day.